Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our first corporate engagement webinar, Meeting the Needs of Our Industry Partners. My name is Michael Bivens, and I'm the Senior Advancement Officer for Corporate and Foundation Relations at Rensselaer. The purpose of today's program is to help you tap into the full depth and breadth of Rensselaer's resources. Today's speakers will share the latest opportunities for advancing research, engaging student talent, and expanding technical expertise. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Please make sure your volume is turned all the way up. We will be muted throughout the presentation out of respect for our presenters. You will see that there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to type in your questions, and we will get to them as time allows during the Q&A portion of the program. I am now pleased to introduce our Acting Vice President for Research and Professor of Material Sciences and Engineering, Dr. Robert Hull, and Director of the Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies and Professor of Biomedical Engineering, Dr. Deepak Vashish, who will discuss Rensselaer's signature thrust, latest research activities, and opportunities for industry engagement.
So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this panel. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope that all of you and your families are safe and healthy. My name is Robert Hull. I'm the Acting Vice President for Research and the Henry Burleigh Professor of Engineering at Rensselaer. And I will be giving a very brief overview of research in the new Polytechnic and how it integrates with the education of our undergraduate and graduate students. Then I'll be asking my colleague, Professor Deepak Vashish, to give more detail on our biotechnology research and on our COVID-19 research. So by the numbers, the research enterprise at Rensselaer comprises over 30 research centers, around 1,000 graduate students, countless undergraduate researchers, and over $100 million in annual research expenditures. And this year, the current year, is shaping up to be our largest year ever in that number. So about 18% of our sponsored research awards in the past fiscal year are from industrial partners. So the people on this call are a very, very important part of our research community. So our research at Rensselaer is organized into 5 signature thrusts, which are shown in this slide. The first of these slides, signature thrusts, is biotechnology and life sciences, where Rensselaer researchers address the molecular mechanisms of diseases and help find cures. Now, you'll hear more from this from my colleague, Dr. Vashish, shortly. The second signature thrust is energy, environment, and smart systems, where Rensselaer researchers are developing new energy resources and are mitigating the effects of energy consumption on the environment. This spans work from energy generation to new forms of energy storage to increasingly sophisticated forms of energy distribution, and the impacts upon financial markets, upon economic structures and policy, and upon regulation. In this field, we work with a broad range of federal, state, and industrial partners. The third thrust is nanotechnology and advanced materials, which provides the fuel for new technologies and new solutions to global challenges. So this encompasses new materials for energy solutions, for carbon sequestration, for next generation electronics, for biotechnology, for transportation, for new sensors, among many others. And again, we are working with a broad range of federal, of state, and industrial partners, including, for example, Corning and Boeing. The fourth thrust, computation, data, and artificial intelligence, underpins research across all fields of knowledge and virtually every technology. So this can range from new device and circuit architectures to fundamental advances in artificial intelligence, to advancing human-machine interfaces, and to harnessing the power of the world's 24th most powerful supercomputer, which is the AMOS system here at Rensselaer. So in particular, we have forged several major partnerships with IBM in this arena. The fifth thrust of media, arts, science, and technology is epitomized by a Curtis Preem Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center, or MPAC, where scientists, artists, and engineers come together to create new knowledge and new forms of expression, again epitomizing the new Polytechnic. In particular, our Cognitive and Immersive Systems Laboratory is advancing the fields of human-machine communications and of cognition and of multicultural interactions. So these signature thrusts align Rensselaer research with the most pressing global challenges facing humankind, such as human health and the consequences of an ever-aging population, stewardship of the environment, both the natural environment and the built environment, mitigating the effects of global warming and the transformation of the Arctic, securing future energy resources, and stewardship of critical resources such as food, water, fuels, but also scarce elements such as the niobium used in superconducting technology for MRI systems and many other applications. And finally, addressing physical and cyber security. So to address these challenges, research at Rensselaer integrates the frontiers of engineering, basic sciences, computation and data science, and cognitive and social sciences. This intellectual marriage provides innovative solutions to these global challenges, including mitigating disease, providing clean food and water, developing new sources of clean and renewable energy, and establishing a resilient national and international infrastructure. We are inventing new methods. For advanced manufacturing that lead to new products and processes. We are unlocking the secrets of questions as fundamental as how did life emerge on Earth? We are developing new materials for advanced computing, for energy storage, and for medicine. And we are pioneering new technologies to manage the explosion of data from new communication networks and control systems. And most urgently right now, we are addressing the greatest health challenge facing humankind for a century, the COVID-19 pandemic. And at this point, I'm going to pass on to my colleague, Dr. Bashish, Director of our Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies.
For that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to talk with you online, and I would, when the situation permits, welcome you all to visit our Center for Biotechnology and Interdisciplinary Studies, or CBIS. So CBIS was formed in 2004. Since then, we have worked with 65 different companies. Our current revenue accounts for 20% of the total Rensselaer research expenditure, out of which 1/3 is generated with industry. So we work in close cooperation with the industry and try to address the challenges as they arise. So I thought that one of the good point to share with you is to bring you up to date of what we are doing or what we usually do when there is a crisis like the COVID-19 crisis, which is unfolding upon all of us. So I'll give you some vignettes and some examples of the work we are doing in that space, and these would serve as an example of what we can do together on this and other aspects in future. So as you're all familiar with the situation of COVID-19 is caused by the SARS coronavirus 2, and a lot of emphasis has been placed on the spike protein, as you can see up here on the slide. And we started up by looking at some of the fundamental aspect of the attachment of SARS coronavirus 2 and its interaction using the spike protein. And, there are a couple of examples here. If you look on the left, we we looked at this particular aspect and working with our partners, Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York, one aspect which came up was the issue of hypercoagulation and the blood-based issues which were happening. And researchers at RPI suggested to use and develop a particular approach using heparin as an anticoagulant function to help and address and treat these patients. And Mount Sinai then developed a treatment protocol, which is shown up here, which was adopted there and now is being applied universally across the world. The other example is shown down here that based upon similarities between the human hepatitis C and the protease aspect of it, which is a very similar to the protease connection on the SARS coronavirus 2. Researchers are investigating a host of different drugs produced for hepatitis C, which can be used effectively and have better docking abilities than the current inhibitors which are being used. And that work has been done using the computational power of Rensselaer, as well as we're beginning to synthesize and evaluate these drug interaction in the context of SARS coronavirus 2. On the right-hand side are some of the examples which address multiple situations. For example, we've been involved in the national project on the convalescent plasma, which has been championed by FDA, and we're working in collaboration with Johns Hopkins and several other industries and academic partners, where we're looking at how to better separate the neutralizing antibodies which may be present in the plasma of COVID-19 patient, then looking at how to isolate them and how to scale up the production, which leads both to the approach of developing a better test for COVID-19, as well as development of monoclonal antibodies in the long run to address the situation of an antibody-based treatment. And we are also looking at some new therapeutic approaches to address the binding of spike protein with ACE2 inhibitors and how this can be controlled and prevented using some of the existing or the new drug molecules. There are two interesting aspects nationally which are covered under the National Notes of Manufacturing Innovation, particularly NIMBLE, which is focused on biopharmaceutical, and the SART Manufacturing Institute, which focuses more on the manufacturing practices. These are umbrellas of public-private partnership under which we work with several corporations and are able to get a cost share from the federal agencies to move forward. So that's an example of what we're doing in COVID-19. I would suggest that please use this as an example of other areas and how we work with multiple companies. On this slide, I show some of the initiatives which we have in place to support both the undergraduate and graduate research at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and also how our students are working more closely with industrial partners like many of you on this call. So what you see on the left is part of our ARCH program, which Rensselaer has taken up. And under the ARCH program, the students spend the summer here at Rensselaer, followed by a fall or a spring semester up working with an industrial partner. And there will be more of that later on by one of my colleagues. So this is an example of what we've come up with, that in the space of the COVID-19 crisis, we're exposing our students to the current issues which may be related to biopharmaceutical manufacturing, development of drugs or development of treatment, and how you would use state-of-the-art technology, for example, flow cytometry using stem cell research or looking at genomics to address the situation. So the students in this particular example will be exposed through the different tools of research in the context of COVID-19. They will rotate through these courses, getting some hands-on experience. We are giving this hands-on experience virtually this year, using some nice interaction, remote control interaction with their equipment. Following this, the students will get a certificate, and then go on to 3 different paths. One would be an internship in an industry or a research experience, or focus on their individual entrepreneurship. So this is something at the undergraduate level. On the right-hand side, you see a very parallel system at the graduate level, where under the auspices of the NIH-funded program, we put our postdoctoral students through different research areas, which are shown on the slide, and it involves a industrial internship where they spend summer working at a company. So these students get to know how products are developed and how IP is developed in that way. And again, all these images are hyperlinked, so you can click on that to get more information. At this point, I'll pass it back on to my colleague, Professor Hull.
So thank you very much, Deepak. What I wanted to just do was to summarize contact mechanisms and ways in which we can interact. So certainly in terms of contacting about specific research opportunities at Rensselaer, my contact information and Professor Vashist is shown at the top of the slide. And there are many ways we can interact together. They could include your working with our students on the Arch program and the Arch Away program, which we would be extremely interested in understanding more. And Philip Bruce will be discussing this more in the next presentation. But in terms of research, there are different mechanisms we can work together. We can partner on proposals to federal agencies. Many of you are sponsoring research at Rensselaer, and that's enormously appreciated. There are gift mechanisms, memberships in the centers, which Deepak and I and others had. So rather than going through that list in detail now, do contact us with any kinds of questions you might have about working together. We've set up a Rensselaer Research Fund. It has several key foci, which are listed here. Of course, battling COVID-19, promoting human health more generally, preserving global energy resources and the environment, fostering new engines of innovation in manufacturing and related areas, and opening windows into new worlds are to build out the incredibly sophisticated instruments we have for probing the most fundamental mechanisms of matter and of nature. So thank you for the opportunity to briefly discuss our research programs. Now I'm going to turn over to our Director of the Center for Career and Professional Development, Philip Bruce, who will speak to the many opportunities to engage our talented students, for you to engage our talented students. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Robert. I appreciate that introduction and all of the information that you've shared. What I'd like to do first is just kind of explain to you a little bit about the Arch program for those of you who may not know. As was mentioned, they spend in between their sophomore and junior year, their summer on campus. Obviously, it's a virtual experience this summer. However, it's still going to be a very rewarding and transformative experience for them. All of those students, all right at 1,200 of them, are going to be participating in an away semester either in the fall or the spring of next year. So what that away semester kind of looks like is either an internship or co-op experience, a civic engagement experience, an ILE, which is an independent learning experience, or a civic engagement opportunity. Many of the students, about 86% of them, have pre-identified that they want to do an internship or co-op, which would also encapsulate the research component to it also. So we've got 1,200 students, 86% of them really want to do an internship or a co-op or research experience. And to give you an idea of what that looks like on our campus, here is a bar chart that explains kind of the impact the Arch has already had on experiential learning at RPI. As you'll see, for fall semester traditionally, we were sending about 110, 112 students regularly every semester out in internship co-ops and research opportunities. Well, with the advent of Arch, you can see that number jumped up quite a bit. So there are lots of opportunities for students in both the fall and spring semesters. Summer has always traditionally been a great experiential learning time for our students on campus, but we'd like to see the fall and spring opportunities grow. Right now, we're placing about 50% of the ARCH cohort into those opportunities. And I use the word placement loosely. Really what we do is work with employers and industry partners to create opportunities that make sense for their organization, and then we market those opportunities to the student body in the appropriate majors. We also focus a lot on developing the students for these opportunities, for their interviews, to help them develop career skills that they'll use throughout their life. So there's a lot more that goes into it other than just posting opportunities and students, accepting them and going and doing an internship or co-op. As you will see on this next slide, we've got some great company partners that we already work with. We, owe a lot of thanks to the outreach team in the Ccpd on the employer relations side of things, but also to the IA team on campus and a lot of colleagues on campus for helping us promote ARCH opportunities for students and explain to companies and organizations, how they can benefit from having an RPI student in their workforce. An organization that is as prominent on our campus as IBM, you would expect them to have a large number of ARCH OA opportunities, and they have. So we have successfully been able to connect, if you will, 13 students last year with IBM. We're anticipating that number growing in a virtual environment. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals is obviously an organization that's pretty busy right now. So they need as much help as they can get with interns and co-ops. You'll also see organizations that traditionally recruited RPI like Pratt & Whitney, Johnson & Johnson, Cisco, and Borg Warner. Those are all very consistent partners who have found a way to develop programs that allow for internships and co-ops in the non-traditional summer semester. So again, fall and spring away is really what we're looking at here. Now, with the COVID pandemic, it's obvious, right, that a lot of things have changed in the employment landscape. So all of our students' 5-year career plans, they look a little bit different now. Now, the same is true for these organizations. So when you take a typical organization that had a very robust in-person onboarding experience for interns and co-ops and prized, human interaction with other folks in that experience, that's all kind of had to be rethought and shifted. And, our employers are showing a great deal of intellectual agility in that. A recent CNBC poll, has 84% of employers across all markets moving to virtual experiences for experiential learning. And that's a huge shift. I mean, that's unprecedented. And I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but it's true. So as a result, we are seeing companies look at fall and spring in different ways because it can be done virtually now. What we're hoping is some of the people on this panel or on this webinar are in an organization where those kinds of discussions are taking place. And so as a result, yes, COVID has impacted us and our student population in not the best way, but we're making the best of that situation, and so are the employers. So when we think about moving forward and how we can continue to grow those opportunities and get closer to meeting that 86% of the students who want to do these experiences, we've got some things that we feel like could help with all of that. And before fall 2020 starts, which is in August, so coming up, we'd really like to hear from you in terms of finding out how we can engage your organization or you with recruitment and opportunity, both development and identification. So we work with employers who call us and say, I have no idea how to set up an internship in a virtual world. Well, we do, and we can help you with that. We can also do it by major if you're looking for specific students. So please do reach out before fall so we can start to develop those opportunities and get them into the system. Once we hit fall and then into spring 2021, we're really hoping that we can get some RPI alumni engaged. We're working with the RAA, which is a phenomenal group of Rensselaer alumni who are interested in giving back in multiple ways. Well, we've got some opportunities for you. We'd love to have you participate in helping students learn how to do virtual interviews. That's the new norm for these students. Now, they're going to have to be able to text, interface in a virtual environment through the internet and other social media platforms. That's how they're going to get these jobs. Any advice you have for them on how to do that, like when to use an emoji and when not to, those are great things that you may know already, but they don't. So we'd love to, even if it's just an hour of your time to participate in a Q&A in one of our workshops, we'd love to hear from you on that. Finally, we know there's some data and information sharing that we could be doing in the Ccpd to help you. So for instance, if you said, I don't know if my company is recruiting an RPI, well, you can ask us and we'll be glad to share that with you. In addition, if there's other information you want to know that we can provide, we are more than happy to do that. So please just know that RPI is absolutely open for business when it comes to recruitment of our students. We've got 1,200 amazing students who need opportunities, and we look forward to hearing from you and working with you to help secure those for them. So now I'm going to turn it over to the amazing Dr. Eric Krause, who will tell you a little bit more about what he's got going on at Hartford, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that introduction. And good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to tell you a little bit more about what's going on at Rensselaer's Hartford campus. You may be familiar with the campus. You may have had the opportunity to interact or see the campus, or you may not. So I'll just start with a very brief history. We are proud to have been developing programs, graduate level programs for working professionals since 1955. We've had the opportunity to assist more than 20,000 working professionals achieve their career goals with our graduate level programs. Now, if you're familiar with Rensselaer and Hartford, you know that it was a Hartford phenomenon, located in Hartford, Connecticut, 120 miles from the main campus. And what we've needed to do is figure out a way to work with working professionals, not just in the Hartford area, but wherever they might be across the world. So we've been working over the last few years to do just that. So instead of Rensselaer at Hartford, maybe thinking about us as Rensselaer anytime, anywhere in the world, working with working professionals to help them achieve their career goals. So over the last couple of years, we've spent a lot of time out talking to employers. What we wanted to do is find out what do they need in terms of graduate level working professional education. And then we've used that data and that feedback to reshape every program we have to exactly align with those critical needs identified by various organizations. From those conversations, we came away with about 4 overarching conclusions that you can see at the bottom of your screen, which shows just a few of the companies that we've had the opportunity to talk with over the last 3 years. We've talked with many different organizations, but in essence, they gave us a couple of general conclusions, one of which is that the way jobs are changing, the way that the environment in which companies are working is changing at a tremendous pace, largely impacted by things like technology and data. So the working professional today, to be relevant 5 years from now, may have to update themselves to get new abilities, to study new things, and to grow their ability set so that they can continue to thrive in the future as the world moves forward. That's one of the major conclusions. Another major conclusion was that the size of that update of ability sets that people need is of different size. Sometimes it's just a course. Sometimes it might be more than a course, maybe a subject area. And sometimes it may be a whole well-rounded set of ability updates. So what we've done is re-architect every program we have to be available just in time, on demand, the right size to help working professionals anywhere be up to date, ready to take on new challenges, ready to achieve that next career goal. And so I just want to spend a minute telling you about those new programs. And I mentioned they're of different size. So you can see on your screen right now, we've built certificates. These are 3 courses, very heavily concentrated in a particular area. Could be data analytics, could be machine learning and artificial intelligence, could be supply chain and logistics, systems engineering, management. It may be the case that a working professional is getting ready to take on a new set of tasks in the management area. Well, we have these certificates that are all for credit They count. They can be completed in a year or less, just exactly along the career path when the working professional needs it. And they can be accumulated into full degrees. You can see on the lower left-hand side of your screen degree programs that we offer. So take a certificate right when you need it, then accumulate them over time into a degree, a Master of Science in Engineering Sciences degree. Again, smaller programs that give you the increment of ability you need anytime, anywhere, that grow into programs and degrees over time. It may be the case that what a working professional needs is a single course. We can do that as well. Or it may be the case that since we work with so many employers, it may be that what they need is specialized in nature. So you can see on the lower right-hand side of your screen, we can develop organization-specific programs based on any of these programs or any other area and deliver it to the organization. In essence, we want to be the working professional and the employer's lifetime partner to help them continue to update themselves, to be relevant, to meet critical skills gaps, to move the organization forward, to move the needle on achieving what needs to be achieved. As I mentioned earlier, the world of work is changing. Boy, have we seen it change in the last couple months. We need our teams and ourselves and our working professionals to be ready for those new challenges. Rensselaer is ready to help you. We used to be Rensselaer at Hartford. Now we're Rensselaer anytime, anywhere across the world to help our employers and our alumni and alumnae, to continue to be relevant, to continue to meet their career goals and move forward and lead their organizations forward to success. So that's what we've been doing. We're no longer geographically bound, although we still work with many employers in New England, but now we can serve students in any 50 states and, frankly, around the world. We can serve your teams if they're located in multiple locations and cohorts. We can deliver anything, anywhere, anytime, on-site or digital, so that we can be a partner that adds value to you and your organization however it's needed. If you want to learn more about the programs that I've described, or you want to talk about the specific need you have, feel free to reach out. You can see our website on your address right there, on your screen right now. It shows all the various programs, or you can send an email to me directly, and I'd be happy to help you figure out how Rensselaer can serve you no matter where you are to move forward in your organization. I hope that was exciting to you. I'm now going to turn it back to Michael Bivens and let him move us forward.
That's great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. A lot of energy. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, panelists, for the great insights and discussion. I'd like to turn this portion of the presentation over to the audience for questions. But before we do that, I just want to mention that we have participants today from several companies, including Boeing, Cisco, Corning, Cypress Semiconductor, General Motors, Lockheed Martin, Performance Gen Corporation, Vibrant, and United Technologies, just to name a few. And so we thank you for being here today and for hearing this presentation, and we can start with a question. So please send your questions and use the box at the bottom of your screen to do so. I'll start with a question to Robert and Deepak, a great presentation on what we're doing here in terms of research. How can a company best interact with faculty at Rensselaer, and how do we find out whether somebody has a specific expertise or need?
Okay, so let me take a first pass of that question. Thank you, Michael. So this is Robert Hull speaking. So there are a number of vehicles. I mean, certainly our website, the RPI website, if you go to research.rpi.edu, it will take you in a sort of fairly organized fashion through the different research centers we have, different research initiatives. But very often, I think, it's the personal interaction which is most useful here. So if it's in the biotechnology area, if you follow up on the contact information for Deepak, I can guarantee he will know how to direct traffic to a very precise degree. If it's in the physical sciences, I would know how to make the right connections and coordinate the right connections. If it was in the computational or data analytics, I would engage either Jim Hendler, director of our Data Analytics Center, or Chris Carruthers, director of our High-Speed Computational Center. And we can make those connections happen, and we can make them happen efficiently and quickly. So by all means, peruse our website. That is a great way of getting the landscape. But in my experience, it's the personal interactions and traffic direction and engagement, which we're very well equipped to help with. So Deepak, would you have anything to add to that?
Sure. So thank you, Robert. That was comprehensive. I would, sort of lay out that there are almost like 3 levels of interaction you can think of how you can engage with us. So one level is a simple interaction where you have a particular problem which needs, some analysis or reporting using high-end equipment. And, just to give you an example, in Center of Biotechnology and also across the whole institution, we have several multi-million-dollar instruments. So, and we have core directors who run those facilities. These are PhD level personnel who work very closely with industry, so they can quickly address your needs and provide you that information. The other level of interaction is with the faculty when there is a research project and the problem is deep enough so that it requires an extended investigation. So we use our research and contract agreements. We have some cookie cutter sort of proposals layout to get involved with disclosures and signing of NDAs, and then it quickly translates into a research grant, which will involve direct interaction between a company, faculty, and the student. And I would also highlight, there were 2 examples I gave of NIMBLE and SESME. So the way these national organizations work is that they provide very important cost sharing, and in a lot of cases is one-to-one cost sharing. So if you're putting forward $1 million using our membership, and RPI is tier 1 members of a lot of these institutions, which gives us a seat on the table and the voting table, so we can work very closely with other industry partners, academic institutions, to get the required cost sharing so your money goes a much longer way to address the significant problems. These national notes of manufacturing innovations are very much focused on translation. So they're looking at all scale, like small startup to very large industry. So we can, handle multiple problems with that part. And the third one, I would encourage you all to think about that we are very much focused on working with you to develop our students with the skill set which are immediately deployable in your organizations when they come for internship. So I gave you an example of the COVID-19 based research experience, which then involves, student rotation in multi-million-dollar core equipment and their use and expertise. So again, these students will come prepared to you to start working for you, within the first week. And I would encourage you to explore that options, providing them internship opportunities. Through NIMBLE and the SESME, we are also having what Eric touched upon is professional education. So we are actually partnering with you. We've had a project just approved with Sigma Millipore, for example, which is a $300,000 project just on professional education and development for 12 months, with specifically being tailored to put it out with them. So again, there are opportunities for professional development, which we can work with you to gather trained professionals as well. So I would say that think of these 3 approaches to address the problem.
the availability of the presentation. And yes, we will share the presentation and a recording of this with you within 24 to 48 hours of this presentation and your registration through your registration. So you will receive a copy of that. Thank you, Deepak, for talking about the skill sets that and experiences that the students will receive, which leads me to a question for Philip. Are there certain industries or majors that Ccpd could specifically use to help in developing sustainable art opportunities for arts and away students?
Yes, we could always use help across all majors. So I don't want anybody to think that, oh, well, they have too many engineering internships as it is. That's not the case. However, there are some that are particularly, I would say, challenging to keep as a sustainable opportunity for each of the cohorts as they matriculate. So our goal when we establish a partnership with an organization is not a one and done type thing. In other words, if you have a position for this fall or spring, that's great. We want to know about it and we want to help you fill it with an RPI student. But long term, we would love to see that continue. So you could expect an RPI student every fall or spring. Now the projects may change and that type of thing, but anything in the biomedical arena is always somewhat challenging for us. Those opportunities are very sought after by our students. So any assistance in those areas. And we're also really trying to build out some of our majors in Haas. So if you think about, game design, those types of majors would traditionally not always have paid internship opportunities associated with them, and that's what we'd also like to try to move to. So I think anything in the biomedicine fields, biomechanical fields, we would really appreciate some help with that. But again, I want to reinforce, if you've got an opportunity, regardless of the major, we would love to hear from you and help you fill that.
I know that you mentioned in your presentation the information, of course, that they could contact you in regards to the program. Is there any additional information that you want to provide at this time as it relates to how employers get engaged with you?
Yeah, sure. It's as simple as an email. If you send that to myself or my colleague, Evan Young, who is our associate director for the employee relations team, we'll figure out whatever medium you want to communicate in. Even if it's just an email to say, hey, here's the contact information for our HR department who handles recruitment. That is incredibly helpful. If you're someone who has access to posting positions and things like that, we're excited to be announcing a shift from JobLink, which is what the institution has historically used, to a new platform called Handshake. And that's actually being implemented right now by our IT team on campus. We really hope to have it available and launched certainly by mid-July. But that'll be a great system for you to post very quickly into it and have an employer account. And the final thing I'll say about that is, if you have a job or have had a job in the past, you have value. You can help an RPI student. We'd love to hear from CEOs. Michael has obviously helped us get in touch with those folks. But if you're at the recruitment level, if you're a mid-level manager, if you have access to a personal career story, which is your own, you have something to help an RPI student. So please don't assume that, you wouldn't be able to contribute in some way. You will, and we would welcome that.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Eric, you had a lot of exciting information to present in terms of working with students and really working with working professionals. So I wanted to ask you, when you talk about digital delivery, is that the same as online?
That's a great question, Michael. You know, we've one of the messages that we heard very clearly from employers was what they wanted was people who knew how to do what they were studying, that didn't just know a lot, but knew how to use what they were studying. So what we did is we built our courses, our programs, all to be using a methodology called project-based. So you're not just learning and taking courses, you're actually doing real-world projects all the way through the program. One of my favorite courses is in the data analytics field, where you're presented with a problem right up front. Your CEO wants you to figure out whether or not, this is in the business intelligence certificate, your CEO wants you to figure out whether or not there's a market opportunity for this new robotic healthcare device that you've been working on for a couple of years. So go, answer that question. And then the course, of course, tells you how to do that and how to approach it and what models you should use. But the point is you're doing real-world problems all the way through. That makes it far more engaging than just trying to read and memorize and take tests and what you see in a lot of online programs, Michael. So I like to say that our programs are digitally delivered because they end up being very personal, very application-based, very much about you demonstrating your learning as you learn in real-world ways. We also, just final close, we also hire faculty to serve as mentors, practitioner faculty. So as students are working on these projects, it's following the Rensselaer technique of having a lab space to try what you're learning, sometimes make mistakes, sometimes get it wrong, but there's a practitioner mentor faculty member right there to help you perfect your technique. So you leave with the knowledge, the experience of having done under a practitioner mentor. It's not just online. It's digitally delivered anywhere in a very personal, engaging way so that the people participating in these programs can achieve their objectives. We're very proud of that. Michael, in the chat box, I put my email address. So if anybody would like to follow up and talk about this, you knew the website, ewp.rpi.edu, but my email address is in the chat box. I'd be more than happy to chat.
Yes, Eric, that it sounds like in answering that question, it really allows the school to be able to provide this wonderful educational digitally across boundaries.
Yeah, I like to say it, Michael, the excellence of the Institute anywhere. You don't have to come back to Hartford or Troy to get it. One thing I'll just throw in there is a lot of these projects are about the employee's company, are about your company. The context is an issue that your company's trying to solve. So the students also get to know their company better. We're very proud of that.
That's great. That's great. I want to ask you one last question, Eric. I know that in the past, you offered a traditional sort of MBA type program and courses, and now you have these wonderful certificate programs. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between the certificates, the MBA program, and does it still exist? Can a person still do an MBA if they wanted to?
Right. We do have the full-time residential MBA in Troy. It's an outstanding program. It's up to date. It's the work that the Lally faculty have done to make it so relevant to the future of business, not just today, but the future of business is outstanding. But it is a residential program, so one would need to be at the Troy campus to be able to participate in that program. What we've done is we've taken what would typically be in an MBA program. We don't have an MBA program out of Hartford, but what we've done is taken the content and develop projects so that they can be delivered. I told you, for example, about a managing technical organization certificate. That has the strategy, the market analysis, the planning, the managing of people in it. So it's a perfect transitional type of a program. It's just the part of business that you would need at that moment. Then we have a follow-on certificate that one could do later called Leading Change and Innovation, which is about planning and moving the organization with all the change management that brings into line. So as one moves through one's career and they're taking on increasing levels of responsibility where they need to make decisions and then implement them, this is perfect for that planning, leading, changing and executing, most importantly. So we've broken it down into these smaller units, Michael, to answer your question. We have the content of an MBA in these certificates, but not the MBA itself for working professionals at a distance.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's great information, and the panelists have provided really good information on their programs, and certainly the best way for those who are on the line and listening and on the webinar to be able to follow up. So we certainly would like to, be able to have our guest be able to follow with you and answer any additional questions that they may have. And that information is on the presentation, of course, which you will receive after this. So I want to thank our guests, our visitors, and panelists again for a great discussion and conversation. And I want to thank our guests for tuning in to today's program, which I hope provided you with some information and ideas for engaging with the Institute. We are grateful for our many partners, our many corporate partners that not only share our vision for changing the world, but help to make it happen. I encourage you to reach out, again, as I said earlier, to any of the panelists to connect and ask any questions that you may have, or to gain some more insight into their areas. I also want to encourage you to explore all of the ways to support Rensselaer philanthropy at Rensselaer, research at Rensselaer, and certainly in the area of our student acquisition. No more than we rely on our companies, our alumni, and corporate partners like you to support us, and particularly in a time when we are very challenged by this COVID environment and this environment that we're in. And so our support from our alumni, our support from our corporate partners become even more important. I want to ask you to invite you to participate in what we're calling our Rensselaer Corporate Ambassador Challenge between now and our 2 Pi Day giving on Sunday, June 28th. This is a program that's new, and how it works: the company with the highest giving participation during this time will win what we're calling the Rensselaer Corporate Cup. It's a version of the Stanley Cup. Hockey is big here at Rensselaer, and certainly Division I, and so we pay a lot of attention to hockey. But the company that has the best participation will receive this cup and will have the opportunity to display it in their office for a full year. So we invite you to join us and participate in that area. Remember, the more alumni at your company who give, the greater chance of winning this new award. So we do want you between now and June 28th to go online to explore what other companies are doing. It is a bit of a competition, so we're excited about that challenge. And you can go to giving.rpi.edu, support our students to get more information on that. Lastly, what I'd like to say is you will receive the email within 24 hours with today's recording, along with a brief survey that will ask you to fill out. Will be helpful to get some feedback on this webinar and this event, and other comments that you might want to make about the program. Be sure to check your emails for social media moving forward and other future programming opportunities that we will be presenting to our corporate companies and alumni and others. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, I want to thank you on behalf of our panelists and our team here for your support today and for engaging in this webinar. And to stay safe, and healthy. And we wish you a great afternoon. And again, we thank you for your participation and your time today. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.